Hey everybody, I wanted to make a quick little video on some troubleshooting for Navajo ply or chain ply, depending on what you want to call it. So I've been doing a lot of this lately for a big custom order, and so if you've been following my videos, you know that it took me a while to get good at Navajo ply. So I was getting a little aggravated, so these were some tips I came up with because I thought they might help you. So without further ado, here are the tips. Okay, so tip number one is, and these are my singles, and hopefully you were impressed with how tight and strong they look, but you can't really tell, but that's just for demonstration purposes. So my first tip is spin your singles, and so you can see they're thinner here because I'm ending up with a thicker Navajo ply. But for your singles, especially if you're spinning them thinner, as seen here, make sure you spin them with a decent amount of twist. So if you're somebody who happens to spin singles that are a little loosey-goosey, if you're Navajo plying, this is a good time to make sure you definitely have enough twist in there. You don't want them breaking, but when you're Navajo plying or chain plying, you're going to be going in the opposite direction with that single. So if you don't have enough twist, they can kind of want to come apart on you, which was a problem I was having pretty often when I started, and it was driving me insane and causing me to say lots of bad words, but that's okay. So first off, make sure you have enough twist in your singles so that they're good and strong. Second tip, kind of the opposite of the first tip. So this is my Spinolution King B. So I'm looking at the ratios. This is an older one, so it doesn't have the golden whirl. If you are a Spinolution nerd and are like, hey, that doesn't look like a golden whirl, this is an older one. So you see I have it on my biggest gear ratio up here. And what that means is the flyer head will spin slower, so it won't get it. I spun it on a smaller ratio, so it got lots of twist in it going that way on the singles. So now that I'm plying it, I want it to have less twist going this way for what I just mentioned. I don't want my singles to start coming undone. So by having less rotations while I'm plying, at least for me anyway, somebody else might have opposite tip on this, but for me, having slower feet, I definitely had to slow my feet down, and less rotations this way, I had less trouble with my singles wanting to come untwisted while I was Navajo plying. So that's tip number two, is bigger ratio. Okay, so to go along with the two tips I just shared, I am making an effort to not do my feet too fast, and I've got it on the largest gear shift as I showed you, and I'm trying to keep it in the camera. I normally pull it back a bit further. Hold on, there you go. So I'll get this going again. I'm not going too fast with my feet, and I've got this on the bigger treadle, so I'm really watching the twist build up here till it gets to the appropriate amount of twist. It's not getting too twisty. And also, when I'm pulling my hoops, sometimes you can end up with like a little knot right here. If you keep pulled back, some slight tension, not too much, on that, it keeps the knots from building up. So there you go. So I've got a strong single with a decent amount of twist in it, and then so that had smaller ratio when I was spinning the single, and then I've got it on a bigger, slower ratio, and I'm purposely keeping my feet slower, and then pulling back gently while watching the twist build up as I'm doing this. See, I can watch the twist build up and then do this again. So there you go.